Hello everyone, Maurice here, and today we have a meta report. So it's the late rare era meta report. So because we have only for less than a day to go, and if you are still looking to push for the give a final push for the rare era, then stay tuned on what is the meta and what are the meta breakers, and you can already see some TLDRs here. Um, okay, so I'm going to skip the TLDR for now. Of course, do read the blog post if you want more details. And yeah, let's just get into the distribution. Okay, so Leafy and Momo are the main ones that you'll see. In the ladder, I think basically even at the top 1,000, you would basically see that. So if you're looking to push in the top 1,000, then beating Leafy and Momo are the key ones. And then you do see Inoki and Sustain. Those four basically makes up more than 75% of the matchup. So you basically see these four, right? Leafy, Momo, Sustain, and Vinoki. And then you see a bit of Topaz as well. And actually for Leafy, there is a bit of an innovation there in the sense that there is something called Leafy Tri-Spikes where Leafy team having Tri-Spike on it as well, and there are actually pure Tri-Spike team as well without Leafy, right? Those are also making it up there as well. So there's actually quite a lot of different archetypes, especially like the Tri-Spike stuff is like more concentration at the top, just because there are not as many like the Tri-Spike stuff at the like bottom there. So it's mostly the top that is really trying out the Tri-Spike tech here. And then something I wanted to point out also is Triple R really get pushed out by Momo. Momo, I think, is proved itself to be a better version of Triple R. So Triple R is really not like used that much, and partly also because Momo is free, so most people will just use Momo. And then Hotbutt is still there, and then there's another thing called Confused as well. And the others here is basically a summons build that I haven't really bothered to categorized, but yeah, so Confused, there are actually maybe two or three teams out there playing Confused, and it is quite interesting that it's working out pretty well. Okay, so yeah, so that is pretty much the distribution. Let's just get into the matchup and the win rate. So let's just look at the win rates first, all right? Win rates for the past 3 days, you can see Tri-Spike, Leafy Tri-Spike is really doing very well. Like it's the new archetype usually, right? People like have, I guess, so-called attack that they are really saving for the end of the season, and Tri-Spike and the Leafy Tri-Spike are the two big ones. And then Confuse also is actually doing very well, even though there are not many teams out there. But even though Confuse, the matchup is really quite polarized, but it is also doing pretty well in this meta. And remember this meta, right? The key is about beating Leafy and Momo. Let's just talk more about the other archetypes. So Leafy and Momo, pretty much 50%. So Leafy and Momo, they are actually pretty well matched now, meaning like they are above 50% win rate against each other. And of course, like they have mirror matches as well, and that's why the win rates are pretty much close to 50%, just because yeah, these two are pretty well matched. And then Poison really not doing too well. And I say Poison, I mean like Vinoki. Yeah, really just Momo and Leafy is just like too fast in some way. Sustain doing okay, but I don't know. So it is doing okay like with Leafy and Momo. Actually, especially against Leafy. For Momo, right, it's usually a draw. Just because Momo also has a lot of shield and so on. Leafy is the one that can't really break through sustain reliably, and doesn't have the shield to, I guess, draw with sustain. And then Topaz actually is still hanging on there. Actually, it's still good, I would say. Close to 50% win rate. Of course, it's not like the meta breaking kind of team, but I think it's good enough to to climb at least to the top 1,000, I would say. Triple R, as I said, getting pushed down already. I think win rate is not really too good, but maybe next era will be better. Drinks also, yeah, it's just really not doing too well. And then actually the other thing that I should mention is Hotbutt. Hotbutt is actually doing quite okay, and I would like to see more like development on Hotbutt. Not sure if it will be too slow in the Epic era, but we'll see. That's because now Rare era is relatively slow, and Hotbutt has quite a good win rate, but maybe Epic era might be too fast for it. We'll see. Okay, let's just get into the specific matchup. And numbers are a bit small here. Yeah, so do check out the blog post if you want to, like have a bigger version of it. I'll just make it a bit bigger and probably focused on one of these. So effectively, it's pretty similar, but of course, do note that the stuff at the bottom and the stuff at the right, they are the less popular kind of teams, right? And so there are like really not a lot of data on those, right? So that's why I'm not going to focus on those. And when you read this data, right, don't take it as like, at least the bottom and the right part. I don't take it too seriously, just because the sample size is very small. But the top left is definitely worth looking at, and you can see Momo, Leafy, really quite even at this point, about 50% win rate. So yeah, let's just go through each archetype, and I'll just go through Leafy first. Leafy doing quite okay. Now it suffers, suffer against sustain, as I said. The two that are, well, actually the three new archetypes that are really breaking through, like really farms on Leafy and Momo, really. All right. And those are Leafy Tri-Spike and the pure Tri-Spikes and the Confused, right? So in order to beat the meta, of course, now you have to beat both Leafy and Momo. So those are the two main teams to beat. Yeah, and I'll talk more about Tri-Spikes in a bit. But yes, but Leafy is still pretty strong. It's just that it has this counter. Of course, the Leafy Tri-Spike is actually kind of like a subset of Leafy in a sense. Of course, I actually in this case separate Leafy. Well, in this case, this is Leafy without Tri-Spike and Leafy with Tri-Spike, right? And Leafy with Tri-Spike is definitely performing better. Okay. Yeah, while we are at it, let's talk about the Tri-Spike stuff, right? So Leafy as Tri-Spike definitely doing very well against Leafy, against Momo, against Finoki, of course, taking advantage of Momo and Leafy. Both, like do multi-hits attack and then proccing the spike, so that Tri-Spike do quite a lot more damage. Also, Tri-Spike does quite a lot of poison damage as well, so that adds to it. Yeah, so that's why Leafy Tri-Spike and this Tri-Spike, pure Tri-Spike is really doing pretty well. Okay, let's just, yeah, it's also doing pretty well against poison. Of course, like the stuff on the right is really like not worth looking at, just because its data is really very, very, like sample size very small. But doing very well, as you can see here, the win rate is close to 60%. Okay, so oh yeah, fun thing I should mention is that there are a lot more description here about like how maybe some specific build and stuff like that. For example, Tri-Spike, actually a lot of the pure Tri-Spike stuff runs Kataro to gain energy fragment, and then actually run Contel and Innocent Lamb, just because now it frees up the Leafy slot, right? If you are just playing pure Tri-Spikes, then you can actually afford to have like Innocent Lamb, that kind of thing. And with Kotaro, you can like sometimes out tempo your opponent while playing two Cottontails by having enough fragments to play two. Now, of course, actually for the pure Tri-Spike teams, a lot of them also run some sort of poison synergy as well. And for the Leafy Tri-Spike, it's slightly different, but it's still just basically Leafy, but with Tri-Spike and maybe one or even two Scaly Spear, just to get the spikes and yeah, deal massive damage. And yeah, I would definitely expect to see like Leafy Tri-Spike, or maybe even just pure Tri-Spike, to be relevant. I think Leafy Tri-Spike in particular, right, relevant in the next eras. Okay, then let's talk about Momo. For Momo, I would say it is like doing pretty well across the board. Against Jinx is tough, but you don't really see a lot of Jinx there. Confused is really the one that really farms on Momo, where like you just slows down Momo's draw, and also usually they have Garish Worm, that kind of thing as well, just to discard stuff. So yeah, Momo can suffer against Confused quite a bit. And then, yeah, but otherwise, this might be the last time we see Momo, who knows, right? Because it is going to be nerfed from next era, so who knows? Maybe it's still strong enough to be at the top 1,000, but maybe, it might be outcompeted by other things, even Triple R. Okay, yeah, might as well talk about Triple R. Triple R really get pushed down, pushed out at this point, and Momo is really just doing well, and all of the other archetypes also has been more like optimized in a way. Like people are playing more optimized version, and yeah, for a rare era, Triple R is just probably not strong enough. Unfortunately, it's just a bit too slow. And then let's talk about Vinoki. Vinoki, again, Poison. This is against Momo and Leafy is tough because they are too fast, and that's why like the win rate is bad. Actually, against other things, it's still fine. Right? It's really just about Momo, Leafy, and the Tri Spikes. Those deals a lot of damage. Other than that, actually, Poison is still doing very well. So that's why I think Poison is still going to be strong. It's just that Leafy and the Tri Spike stuff is just really going to very fast. And yeah, that's why it has a negative win rate, but it is still a very strong archetype, I think. So it really is just very meta dependent. Okay, sustain. Talk about sustain. Suffer against Jinx, against Poison, as you would see. Interestingly, against Finoki is doing okay. So this Poison probably is like a very small sample size, so I wouldn't read too much into it. But sustain is the kind of archetype where, yeah, I mean, it's just good against aggro stuff. You just tag against poison, it could be also good. But the thing is, it could draw a lot, right? That's the thing. And I don't know how it will go in next season, where if people actually run Rise and Ruin, then maybe Sustain will have a tougher time. But who knows? Okay, Topaz is actually still doing okay, believe it or not. Even though, yes, the win rate is not great, right? 40%. It's still winnable, right? I mean, you can still win some games. It's just that the power level is definitely, I would feel, is actually like, at the right power level, let's put it that way, right? It's not overpowered, but it's still doing okay. Right, so I think Topaz is now the healthier kind of situation, right, in terms of power level. Yeah, interestingly, Topaz has pretty good matchup against Jinx. Sorry, not against Jinx. It's bad matchup against Jinx, but good matchup against Sustain because yeah, maybe it's just like constant damage with Topaz like might just be tough for the rare era Sustain to deal with. But once we get to the the epic era, it could be a different story. But we'll see. Yeah, Jinx really not doing well, especially against Leafy, Tri-Spike stuff. Of course, good against like Topaz and Sustain, but then there's really just not a lot of them out there. It's actually pretty good against Momo, but unfortunately for Jinx, Momo might be going away as well, so that's gonna be quite tough for Jinx, I think. Triple R, yeah, I mentioned it already. And then let's talk about Hot Butt. Hot Butt actually is actually very strong, I think. It suffers a bit against Momos because it's you don't really need that many cards to deal a lot of damage with Momo. So that's why against Triple R is tough as well. But of course, like Data Gear on the right is really like tough to conclude anything, is because there's not a lot of matchup here. Right? Even if we go down, there's just really not a lot of data out here. So Hot Butt, I think, can have more experimentation, but it might suffer more in the Epic era just because in the Epic era, the damage just comes a lot faster. There are not as many like new tools for, like, I guess, defensive tools for Hot Butt. Leaf Cloak might be one that could be good, but yeah, we'll see whether Hot Butt can keep up in the next era. And then yeah, Confused. So Confused is the new one that are again really not many teams, like maybe just really a handful of teams that are playing Confused, and that's why all these numbers are really quite yeah, not very conclusive, but it is good against Leafy and Jinx, and that's why like they are doing well. But we'll see whether we'll see more Confused. But I feel like it might not be the case, just because yeah, there's just going to be more damage coming in the next era, and Confused might just be too slow for that in the next era. Who knows? But again, we'll see when we get to the next season. Okay, so that is pretty much it in terms of the summary of like the all the different archetypes and the matchup. So yeah, looking forward to the next season and see how it goes. But of course, best of luck with the final push in the rare era. And yeah, that's it for this video. And yeah, so do check out, subscribe my channel, and also check out the blog post. And I'll see you next video.